The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Okay, Dave, our friend Dan alerted me to this story about the NHL and their All-Star game.
Mm-hmm.
The All-Star game. Yeah, okay. Every sport has an All-Star game.
Right.
And generally, it's not generally people who vote on the players, right? Or in which sports?
Yeah, I mean, the NBA has an audience, a fan voting component. I don't know about other sports. No, baseball does too, actually.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe the NFL does too now that I think about it. Anyway, this guy, John Scott, has been in the league for a while, but not really an impressive resume. So when the NHL announced that they're going to have a new method of voting and that they are leaving it up to the people, there was a huge social media campaign to get votes to this guy,
right,
to make him a team captain. That's who they were voting on, team captains. And so it worked. And this guy, who I don't want to say he's a nobody, but not one of the well-known players, not one of the famous players who's just scoring all the time, he wins. And the NHL does not like this.
Right.
They don't like that it was because of this social media campaign that the guy won. People are getting a kick out of it. They think it's funny. The guy says they wanted him to not be the captain. They said, we want you to give this to someone else. He said, hey, the people have voted, and I'm going to represent them. Immediately after winning, this is pretty bad. He got essentially traded and then kind of just like downgraded to another league and another team. And it's just, his NHL career is basically done. I don't know if this is because he was getting older anyway and this was kind of in the works to begin with, or if this happened directly as a result of him winning this.
Right.
But the game, I believe, was yesterday.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it. I don't really know what happened.
Me neither.
I don't really watch hockey. Although it's a lot more fun live than it is on TV for me. I guess you could say that about a lot of sports. That's basically the story. And it just got me thinking about, imagine if it were that easy to vote for elected officials. If you could just go to your computer, you click something, and you vote. An online voting system.
In Estonia, don't they have that now?
They do. I'm not sure what the sign-up process and registration process is like over there. But how drastically different would politics in our country be? How drastically different would the elections be if everyone could vote
it would be
that
more
way?
progressive, right? You would have more progressive victories. As a general rule, when you increase voter turnout, you help the more progressive candidate. Now, the interesting thing is you would think it's hardest for people who live in really remote areas to vote, and those who live in more rural areas tend to be conservative, but just the population density overall and the low voter turnout that this country has tells us that if you increase voter turnout, generally speaking, that helps the more progressive candidate. It would be drastically different. If we had an engaged electorate where you had 85% voter turnout instead of whatever we have, 48 to 52%, 45%, something like that, everything would be different. You would have such higher levels of political engagement, and you would probably have more progressive elected officials.
Alternatively, remember the whole Stephen Colbert running for president thing?
Yeah.
Now, let's say we had that voting system. Very easy, online.
Lots of
Everyone
people vote for him.
18 plus can do it. What do you think the chances are that if we had that in place, Stephen Colbert would have become president?
Well, you're saying as a write-in campaign?
As a write-in.
Because, okay, I don't think it would have been very likely. If you have to remember, it's very hard to win the presidential election as a write-in in the status quo. It doesn't matter if you're voting for home or not. I get what you're saying. If everybody who's 19 all of a sudden says, hey, I'm just going to go on my computer and type in Stephen Colbert's name, yeah, he'll probably get more votes, no doubt about it. But to really have a shot, you've got to be probably on state ballots, and the write-in campaign is just really tough. I don't think it would have really done anything as far as that goes.
As it stands, yes, it's impossible to win as a write-in. But
you're saying if everything changed in addition to voting from home,
if everyone who was 18 plus could very simply and easily go onto their computer or tablet or phone and vote, I think crazy things could happen.
Maybe so.
I think very crazy things could happen. Probably good things.
Lots of them good, some maybe bad.
Maybe. Okay, let's move on to. Oh, that also reminds me of that whole way back in the day, the American Idol thing, where people were convinced to
Vote for Sanjaya.
yes, this guy who I guess wasn't that good, but he kept winning, and it seems like the network essentially manipulated the results.
Yeah.
And said he's not going to win.
That was a big Howard Stern thing. I mean, Howard Stern basically created that campaign, the
Yeah.
Vote for Sanjaya thing, and it worked incredibly well. And eventually the producers said, he's out. That's it.
Yep. Very sad, Dave. Very sad. The people, our rights were quashed.
Absolutely.
It's government oppression. It wasn't really government oppression.
No.
It was corporate oppression. Yes. Okay. A health insurer has lost. How do you pronounce it? Centene? Or I don't know how to pronounce that. Centene.
Centene.
Centene? Centene. What a bunch of idiots. They lost the records of 950,000 people. How did this happen? Well, they were conducting an internal search for 6 hard drives containing the information. Now, what happened with the hard drives was that it was some type of data project, as they put it, a data project to improve the health outcomes of our members.
Quite a project.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds like these records were only kept, like my records would only be kept on one hard drive. There were no backups. Hard drives are pretty cheap. Data storage is pretty cheap. And this reeks of incompetence. And so what information was on the hard drives? It was names, addresses, dates of birth, social security numbers, membership details, health information. So you might look at that and say, well, is that information that people could use to do harm? Well, clearly there's incompetence going on here.
Yeah, but if you have someone's social and address, you can apply for credit cards under their name. I mean, yeah, you have to figure out where, how can you get the card? It'll just get sent to the person. You have to figure that out. But believe me, people can figure that out. But this is different than your doctor losing your medical record. Let's be clear about that. This is the health insurer. Horrible that it was lost. Terrible, incompetent. It's all bad. No question about it. But it's your doctor. This is totally separate from your doctor having your medical record,
right,
which is probably more important to a lot of people in terms of having documentation of their medical past.
Yes. And so the question is the data lost within the organization, or have those hard drives been removed? In which case, yes, the social security number, names, all of that can be used for whatever. It's just crazy to me. I think that, well, I mean, I guess this could happen even if we had some ideal health, universal health plan, whatever. It can happen. But what we have is a company whose bottom line is profit, and in order to save money, they're not backing up information.
Right.
And this is what happens. So it's fucked up.
Shocking.
Okay, let's talk about Austin. The most famous barbecue place, arguably in the country, maybe even the world, is called Franklin's Barbecue. It's in Austin. I went once, not even when I lived there. It was when I was visiting. Waited for 3.5 hours in line. It's very good. But I think there are other places where you can get brisket that is just as good.
Okay.
And not wait that long. That's just me. I've had tons of brisket in Austin, but what do I know? Kanye West showed up, and he wanted to cut the line. And they told him no. He had to go to the back of the line. Usually, if you are at the back of the line, when the doors open, you're probably not going to get any food because they run out. And at some point, they'll come outside and they'll say, sorry, you didn't make it.
And that's it.
That's that. And we don't really have anything to say from Kanye. I don't think has spoken up about this, but I'm thrilled that he was that he was kicked to the back of the line. I think he's a piece of shit. Also, they say there's only one person who has ever been able to skip the line. Do you know who that is?
No.
Barack Obama, David.
Oh, really?
Yes. And that's a little bit different, isn't it? I guess.
Seems for security reasons you can't really have the president. I mean, You could have someone maybe stand in line for him, right? And then when that person gets to the front, they let him cut in, and then, hey, he's in. I don't know.
Yeah. Things are so out of control at this place that there are the people who you pay to wait in line for you.
Oh.
It can cost quite a bit of money, and people go for it.
So line holders is a thing there.
Line holders are, oh yeah, especially at this place. It's a huge thing. And during South by Southwest, line holders are also a huge thing. And it was featured, this place was featured in the movie Chef. Did you see that?
No.
Okay. It was okay. Anyway, I think it's fair to say it is the most famous barbecue place in the country. And they did this thing, though, that I found really weird, where when you get to the counter and you finally order your meat, any piece of meat you order, after they shave off the brisket, they dip it in some liquid. And I found the brisket and generally the meat at this place to be too salty. I mean, the flavor was great. But I wonder if it has something to do with that liquid, if there's just like a saline solution.
That seems insane to me. I mean, that seems completely nuts.
It seems you shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
If your meat is as good as you know.
Yeah, it's very strange.
I've
never heard of this place, to be honest.
You've never heard of Franklin's?
No.
Well, Franklin's.
I've heard of it now.
Yeah. It's kind of a big deal. And that's pretty much it. I don't like Kanye. And Franklin's really isn't worth the wait.
Okay.
But if you're going to visit Austin, what you can do is like about 2 months in advance, you have to call them. If you order at least 5 pounds of meat, then 2 months later or whatever, you can go in on that day, skip the whole line, just pick it up and leave before they even open their doors.
5 pounds. I'm guessing it's around $25 a pound, maybe?
I don't think it's that high.
Oh, really? Okay.
No. They have been able to control their prices pretty well.
That's
They
good.
could really jack up the prices, and,
Yeah.
and of course people would still pay. They haven't done that. Anyway, that's what's going on in Austin with Kanye. And screw him. I hate that guy.
Should I go through my stuff now?
All right, do it.
Few updates. Okay, number one. I mentioned last week we have this new advertiser, this online magazine, Smash Pipe, and we checked in with them after the first week of the campaign, and they are just thrilled. I mean, Lewis, they said that their traffic has tripled as a result of the ad campaign they're running on the show. They've received emails from our audience saying, heard about you on the David Pakman Show, love the magazine, I'm signed up now, blah, 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 blah. So they are thrilled with how it's going so far. So first and foremost, thanks to everybody who went to smashpipe.com, signed up for their mailing list, contacted them, said thank you for advertising, whatever. Please continue doing that, right? Please go to smashpipe.com, sign up for their daily dispatch or whatever it is that the thing is called, newsletter, etc. And please do consider emailing them and saying, thank you for supporting independent media by advertising on the David Pakman Show. I support advertisers of the David Pakman Show. And this is unlike many other advertisers, Lewis. You don't have to buy a thing, right? This campaign is measured by them building traffic. So everybody, without spending a penny, can help us extend. They did a 7-week campaign. I want them to stay on for the entire year, Lewis. So first of all, that is going really well. That's great.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're going to be on that. Of course. Yeah, it's great.
And you love the magazine.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I checked it out. Yeah, it's good stuff.
All right. Okay. So I'll continue here. Lewis doesn't seem to want to say too much right now. The other thing.
I just thought you had more stuff to get to. So
No, I
was just
do.
gonna let
Yeah,
you-
no,
okay.
I apologize. So last week, I introduced you to 2 new advertisers that we have, Warby Parker for eyeglasses at a much cheaper rate than what you would pay at a lot of other places, and Gamefly, which is kind of like Netflix for video games. Last week, when I told you the URLs that you go to in order to take advantage of the offers that they are offering our audience, unfortunately, if you didn't type www dot before them last week, they weren't working right. And a lot of people emailed me. And at the time, you had to type in www dot. I emailed them and I said, this is absurd. Why would you ever do this? You have to set it up so people can just type it in. Who needs the www in 2016? That's been fixed, okay? So warbyparkertrial.com/TDPS. You get to try 5 pairs of glasses free. If you like one of them or 2 or 3, you send it all back to Warby Parker. They put your prescription in it and send it back to you. I've had Warby Parker glasses for years. When I'm not wearing contacts, I wear my Warby Parker glasses. Okay, number 2, Gamefly, which is like Netflix for video games, gameflyoffer.com/TDPS. Use the www. Don't use the www. Lewis, for my preference, you can keep the www and the dot. I don't need any of that stuff. But the links are working now. So anybody who wants to check that out, you get a free 30-day trial membership to Gamefly at gameflyoffer.com/TDPS. It's all happening.
It's all happening. And I'm definitely a minimalist when it comes to URLs.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. You got to get rid of the three W's and the dot. It's just so ancient at this point.
Don't even get me started on http://. I mean, that we're not even talking about that because that's laughable.
You know what? We could do that all day. It's just, we don't have the time. We can't get into that.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.